All right, we've covered a lot of material in this course so far, and I hope that you've done the previous videos because in this video tutorial, we're going to learn how to create CSS-based page layouts. So I'm assuming that you've done the previous videos, of course, so you understand the basics of CSS and you understand how we can use Dreamweaver to apply CSS to our pages. Now, though, we're going to move beyond the simple work that we were doing before, and we're going to look at the techniques and strategies used to actually lay out entire pages with CSS. So basically, we want to look at how we can get this kind of structure or maybe this kind of structure, and we're going to look at how Dreamweaver will make this easy to do. Before we get into it, I wanted to discuss a couple of points. First of all, why use CSS for page layouts? So you might be asking yourself, well, okay, was there another way? And the answer, yes, there was another way to lay out your pages. And in the old days, we used to use something called tables. If you look up here, we got table. Now, this is a whole different structure in terms of laying out pages. And in fact, it's sort of the old way of doing it. Well, it is the old way of doing it. And it's now the way that you shouldn't do it. I actually cover tables in another video. Just look in the miscellaneous folder that comes in this course. And you'll learn how to use tables properly and what they're used for there. For now, what you should take away is that when you're laying out your pages, you want to use CSS to do this. And there are a couple of reasons. Number one, when you lay out your pages using CSS, the pages will more easily work in many different devices, many different types of browsers. So we're talking not just web browsers on your computers, we're talking iPhones, we're talking cell phones and other types of PDAs, Blackberries, etc. And also, when you do lay out your pages with CSS, it's really easy to make the pages printable. The second reason why you want to go with CSS to lay out your pages is because CSS-based layouts are much easier to update and to maintain. It will save you a lot of time. That said, CSS is not perfect. There are a couple of problems when it comes to CSS and page layout. Well, the major problem is this, is that the structure of CSS, when it comes to page layout, not when it comes to the design stuff that we looked at before, but when it comes to certain types of page layouts, CSS is not very well designed in terms of a technology. It's I can tell you this, compared to other languages I've used over the years, it's really lacking, and it's just, in many cases, it's not logical. Fortunately for us, over the years, a bunch of web designers have figured out how to work around the limitations of CSS, and now we have a bunch of recipes, if you will, that allows us to have pretty much any type of layout that we want done with CSS. And fortunately for us, Dreamweaver comes with all these things built in for us, all these CSS templates that I highly recommend that you use. It's kind of crazy for the most part to build a CSS-based site from scratch. You should always start with a template because it will just save you a lot of headaches and a lot of problems. Another reason why you want to use the built-in Dreamweaver templates is because a lot of the techniques that are used currently, that have to be used currently to lay out your pages with CSS are techniques that will eventually fade. And the reason I say that is because, first of all, they're nonsensical techniques in that they don't make any logical sense a lot of the times. So it's really, you couldn't figure it out like you could with so many other things. It's not mathematical. It's, you know, it's anyway, it's confusing. And eventually these techniques will fade. Why? Because the people in charge of CSS, the CSS nerds, they realize this too. And in the new versions of CSS, they come out with new technology or new techniques that are logical, that make laying out pages a snap at CSS. The problem is now in 2008, 2009, most browsers that are being used out there don't support the new versions of CSS. So you can't use the new version of CSS. You just can't use it. So you have to use the old version. Again, fortunately for us, Dreamweaver comes with the templates, so you don't really have to fudge around like I have and so many other web designers over the years to try to figure out how to get a particular page structure that you're working on. So what am I talking about when I'm talking about page structure? Well, here you have a more of an old school look. You got a left-align site, right? Left on the left side, it's a line, on the left side. And here we have another type of layout where we have a center line, right? It's in the center of the page. So these are two different layout structures, and these are both done with CSS. And this one here, the left align, is actually pretty easy to do, but this one here can be a lot trickier. Anyhow, we'll get into some of these details as we go through the course. What I'm going to do in this course is concentrate on teaching you Dreamweaver and how to use Dreamweaver to create your page structures in CSS. I'm not going to get into micro nerd details in terms of what's going on behind the scenes, in terms of the code and the logic behind it. Well, I use logic in quotes here. But what I will do, I will teach you some of the basics in terms of what people are doing and what you have to do to get a basic structure, some of the basic structures rather, in CSS. I'm talking page structures. And the reason I'm going to teach you some of the basics is so that when you actually do use the page templates, you'll be able to much more easily tweak them and modify them to suit whatever the needs are for your particular website. All right, I hope I didn't bore you with this 8-minute monologue. This is the nerdiest part of the course, I promise. In part 2, we're going to actually get into building some CSS-based layouts from scratch so you get an idea of what's going on, and then we're going to move on to using some of the templates.